My Sweet Audrina, Part 2, Almost a Normal Life. Papa took me shopping so I'd be ready to attend school at the beginning of the midterm in February. All my Christmas gifts were school clothes, coats, shoes, even that raincoat like Vera's I'd been wanting for years and years. It was exciting to select skirts and blouses, sweaters and jackets. Papa wouldn't allow me to buy the jeans other girls wore. No pants for my daughter, he stormed, letting the sales lady overhear. They show too much. Now you keep remembering to sit with your legs together and don't you even look at the boys, do you hear me? His words were loud enough to inform the whole department store. I turned red and told him to lower his voice. Something ugly always came over Papa when he talked about boys. When February finally rolled around, I was like a small child expecting the circus to keep me forever happy. There were no fear of the woods, for Papa would drive me in the mornings, and I'd take the school bus home in the afternoons. You're going to loathe it, proclaimed Vera. You think it's going to be fun, that the teachers will care if you learn, but they don't. You'll sit in a class with 30 or 35 others, and soon enough you'll find it's nothing more but boredom, plain, dull monotony. Without the boys there, I would run away from home and never come back. Not once had she ever said this to me before. When I couldn't go to school, she'd had glowing reports of all her fun activities. Her friends she'd numbered by the hundreds. Now she was telling me she had none. Nobody likes a white friend, even if they hide behind the name of a dare. Papa told Vera to keep her big mouth shut. Hurriedly, I said goodnight, racing up the stairs into the playroom where I could rock and tell Mama all about my life. Somewhere up there I was sure she was listening, happy for me, and as I rocked again the walls seemed to dissolve and become porous, and the first Audrina was running wild in a field of flowers, laughing as a boy of about 10 chased her. She whirled to confront him when he tugged at her sash and it came off in his hands. Who was he? Why did he stare at the first Audrina like that? The scene faded, and the other Audrina was again in school, with a huge, ugly boy of pimples seated behind her, and again, lock by lock, he was dipping her long hair into his India ink bottle. It was during art class, and she didn't even notice. Audrina, chanted a frightening sing-song voice that made me bolt back to myself. Vera was in the doorway glaring at me. Get out of that chair. You've got enough. You don't need her gift, too. Get out and never sit there again. It's mine. I need her gift. I let her have the chair, thinking she was right. I didn't need that unknown gift. It hadn't kept her alive until she was 11 like me. I was surviving, she hadn't, and for now that was a gift enough. Nervously, I dressed for my first day in school the next morning. My skirt was deep periwinkle blue, made of some lightweight wool that would need dry cleaning. My hands trembled when I tied the black ribbon at the throat of my white blouse. You look beautiful, said Papa at the door, smiling his approval. Behind him, Vera was standing, envy on her face. Her dark eyes scanned me from head to toe. Oh, Papa, nobody dresses like that anymore. Everybody's going to laugh at overdressed Audrina. She glanced down at her outfit, faded blue jeans and a sweater. I'm the one who's the style. What she said did little to give me the confidence I needed. I wanted to fit in, not stand out like some oddity. Yet Papa refused to let me wear anything but skirts, blouses, sweaters, or dresses. While Vera boarded the yellow school bus for her high school, Papa drove me to my grade school and came with me to the principal's office. My entry into school had been prearranged, so there was nothing to do except I had to be shown where to go and how to behave. The principal seemed to believe I'd been sick a long time. Sympathetically, she smiled. You'll be just fine once you've learned your way around. Panic seized me in a tight grip when Papa turned to leave. I felt 6 years old. Then I panicked more, for I didn't remember being 6 years old. Papa threw me a glance over his shoulder. This is what you wanted, Audrina, what you begged for. So if you can, try to enjoy it. You're a lovely girl, said the principal, standing off down the long corridor and indicating I was to follow. Most of the children here are very well disciplined, but a few aren't. Your father says your aunt was a school teacher and has kept up your assignments. You should fit right into the 5th or 6th grade with no difficulty. We'll start you in the 5th so you won't feel overwhelmed, and if you do well there, we'll advance you higher. Your father's a very handsome man, and he thinks his daughter is absolutely brilliant. I'm sure he's the one who knows, too. I looked around at all the children who stared at me. Their clothes were very casual, just as Vera had warned, and yet Vera had told me the day before we shopped that the clothes I had on now was right for grade school. I should have known Vera would lie. The girls were all in jeans. None had ribbons in their hair. Furtively, I untied my ribbon and let it fall on the floor. Hey, called a boy, you dropped your ribbon. Several students had already dirtied it with their sneakers. Now I didn't know what to do with it, but hid it away in my little purse. Girls, boys, said the principal, I want you to all meet Audrina Adair. Do what you can to make her feel welcome. She smiled at me, gestured toward an empty desk, and left the room. As yet, the teacher of this room hadn't shown up. I sat there with my notebook and new pencils and didn't know what to do. Somewhere far back in my brain was a hint that I needed books. The other students had books. In front of me sat a pretty girl with dark hair and blue eyes. "Don't look so scared. You'll like her, teacher. Her name is Mrs. Tribble." "I don't have any books," I whispered. "Oh, they'll give you books. More books than you'll want to lug home from school every day." "Hey, haven't you been to school before?" "Yes, of course, but I was out for a while when I broke my leg." At last Vera had served some useful purpose. I could use her injuries and report them on them faithfully. Soon all the girls were turning to hear about my broken bones that had kept me out of school until I was 11 years old. When Miss Tribble came into her class, she gave me the longest, stringest look. "Let us all stand to salute the flag, then we'll have roll call, and each of you will answer present." Some boy behind me giggled. "Boy, what's wrong with her? She acts like we don't know what to expect." I was excited, yet puzzled, worried, tense, and not too happy. I didn't think Miss Tribble liked me. I thought groups of children in the halls at lunchtime were whispering about me. I didn't find it nearly as wonderful to talk to the girls my own age as I thought. I felt so much older than all of them, and then contrarily I was like a first grader, terrified of what to do if I needed the bathroom. Where was the bathroom? The more I thought about the problem, the worse it became. Soon I needed to go so desperately I was in agony. I didn't mean to uncross my legs. "Audrina, is something wrong?" I said. "Teacher." "No, ma'am," I said. I lied, ashamed to say what was wrong in front of the boys. "If you need to be excused, the girls' room is at the far end of this wing. Turn left as you leave the room." Blushing and miserable, I jumped to my feet and ran. The whole classroom was laughing. When I come back, I was too embarrassed to enter. "Come in, Audrina," called Miss Tribble. "The first day in a new school is always somewhat traumatic, but you'll soon find out where everything is. What you don't know, ask." Then she was tapping her pointer on the clipboard, calling for attention. Somehow I managed the first terrifying days of school. I did what the other girls did, fading into the shadows. I smiled when they smiled, laughed when they laughed, and soon I was feeling completely false. Some of what those girls whispered in the restroom shocked me. I didn't know girls talked like that. Little by little I found out what made Vera the way she was. She conformed. I couldn't. I didn't know how to laugh at jokes that seemed gross and not funny. I didn't know how to play the games of tease the boys and then run, for I had too many visions of the first Audrinas rainy day in the woods. I made one friend, the girl who sat in front of me. "It's going to be all right," she told me, "but don't try outdress the rich girls from the city unless you too are rich." She gave me a troubled look. "You are rich, aren't you? There's something different about you. Not just the clothes you wear and your hair, which I think is the prettiest hair I've ever seen, but you seem to come from another century." How could I tell her I felt like I had come from another century, another world even, the 19th century world, old and antiquated, and the house I lived in. My class wasn't large like Vera had predicted, but small. My school was a private school. That made Vera dislike me even more, since her school was a public one. Finally, I attended music classes every day after school. Someday I would be a fine pianist if I kept on as I was. Lamar Rinsdale treated me with special kindness. "Are you grateful you're in school? Do you wish now I'd minded my own business?" "No, Mr. Rinsdale. I'll forever be grateful for what you have done, and I'm beginning to feel real, and I never did before. I owe you for that. Goodbye, good luck, and may your music live on forever," he called as I ran out the door, hopping into the old car Billy had bought for Arden. My teachers seemed to be very careful with me, and I appreciated that. They smiled encouragingly and gave me the books I took home each day. After 2 months in school, I found that there was some hidden source of knowledge within me that made it seem I had been in school before. Maybe I had really absorbed all of first Audrina's memories, or else my mother and my aunt had taught me very well while I sat at the kitchen table. Those other tutors that Papa kept saying he'd hired, and I couldn't remember, must have contributed too. For the first time, Arden was allowed to visit and sit down at our table on Easter Sunday. I pleaded and begged and cried and threatened, wanting Billy too, but Billy had refused. "Come to see me after your dinner. We'll have that chocolate mousse you say your aunt doesn't know how to make right for dessert." Easter Sunday dinner was a miserable meal, because Papa kept questioning Arden about who his father had been and what his occupation had been and why he had left his wife and son. And through the meal, Vera flirted with Arden, batting her long eyelashes, twisting and turning to show off her breasts that clearly showed she didn't wear a bra. Arden seemed awed by the size of my home. He glanced around uneasily as if thinking he'd never be able to afford anything half as grand. When summer came, Arden and I spent every spare minute together. He taught me how to swim in the River Lyle, really swim like he did. The river bottom was muddy and layered with oysters and crabs, and mullets swam, jumping and frolicking mostly during the twilight hours. Their little splashes came to me in dreams, waking me sometimes so that I drifted to the window and gazed down on the glittering moonlight water. Something wonderful was happening inside me this summer, making me eager to wake up and skip the house. But try as I would to leave Vera behind, she always came trailing after. Vera was demanding that Arden teach her how to drive his old car. I was hoping he wouldn't want to, but he did teach her to drive the country roads without much traffic. One day after such a lesson, we hurried back to the river and tore up all our outer clothes. All of us wore swimsuits beneath our shorts. The temperature was soaring, near 100 degrees. I turned to see Arden staring at Vera in her skimpy bikini. 3 little triangles were bright green and very flattering to her hair color. Her pale skin had tanned to a light copper shade. Even I had to admit she looked extremely pretty. Already she'd developed a woman's figure, with high full breasts that jutted out of that little nothing green bra. My chest was still flat as a pan bottom. Vera strode closer to Arden with a lighter green towel thrown casually over her shoulder. I'm terribly tired of all that driving and the long hike here, Arden. Arden, would you mind helping me down the incline? He hurried to assist her down the gentle slope, which I knew she could manage perfectly well. For some reason, he couldn't even seem to let go of her wrist or arm. His fingers on her upper arm just brushed the swelling contours of her new bosom. I flushed with anger when she smiled up into his eyes. You grow more handsome each year, Arden. He grew nervous, flushed, then snatched his hands away and looked guiltily at me. Thank you, he said. You seem prettier each day yourself. My eyes widened as I watched Vera lie on her stomach in the bright sunlight. Arden hovered above, seemingly unable to move away. Arden, would you mind smoothing on some of my suntan lotion? With my kind of light, sensitive skin, I have to be very careful or I get terribly burned. She had the palest skin I'd ever seen. Even as I stared at her pretty copper tan, I was wondering when she'd acquired it. Then, to my amazement, Vera was asking him to untie her bra on the back. I don't want pale streak marks. Stop glaring at me, Audrina. I won't show you anything if I don't move too quickly. Not that Arden hasn't seen naked boobs before. She grinned when he jerked away and looked surprised and guilty. Still, he knelt down to untie her bra, and even if he looked embarrassed and awkward, he managed to smear some of that oil on her back, and the darn long time it took him to do it, too. He was taking too long. I thought his hands lingered unnecessarily long in certain places. He appeared so excited his hands trembled. Furious with him, with Vera, I jumped up and ran all the way home, hating them both. Hours later, Vera limped into my room, flushed and happy-looking. What a silly little prude you are. I'm not interested in your boyfriend. I've got my eyes on someone else. I didn't believe her. You leave Arden alone, Vera. To get him, you'll have to kill me first. It might have been better if I'd never said that. Her dark eyes lit up. Oh, if I really wanted him, he'd be easy enough to take. But he's just a boy, too immature for me. But maybe he's more mature than I thought, and I'll owe him another chance. The next time, I'll let him apply the oil all over. Papa would kill you. She threw a bare leg over the velvet arm of the chair, exposing so much I had to look away. But you won't tell him, Audrina, his sweet Audrina, for you've got a great big secret. You're taking lessons from Don Juan in Whitefern Village. Lamar Rinsdale has seduced every virgin within a radius of 20 miles. You're crazy, I shouted. He's never done anything. She leaned over the opposite arm of the chair. But Papa won't believe that. Papa will believe anything the villagers tell him, so you'd better be nice to me, Audrina. I felt sick as she got up, went to the mirror and took off her bathing suit, showing me what she had and I didn't. Then, still naked, she sauntered out of the room, leaving her wet suit on my rug. Now I was nervous about music lessons, afraid now of the man I trusted before. I cringed when he leaned above me and shrank when his hand accidentally touched mine. What's wrong, Audrina? Nothing. I hate it when someone says that, when obviously something is very wrong. What made you stop trusting me? I guess I've heard a few things. I'm afraid I can't come here again. So, you're going to be like all the others and believe the worst of me. He jumped up from the bench and paced the small living room. You happen to be the only student who keeps me tied to this hick town. I keep telling myself, even if I'm not good enough for Broadway, I'm contributing to a fine musician of the world. I felt sorry for him, for me too, for there wasn't another qualified teacher except in the city 30 miles away, and I had no way to reach the city. Mr. Rinsdale, I tried it again. Lamar, why can't you call me by my first name? He shot out angrily. I can't call you by your first name. Papa has warned me not to do that, for it's the first step. Here, I hesitated. Vera talks a lot. Remember that. If she ever told Papa about your reputation, he'd come after you. Papa is huge, and it's not his way to stop and listen to reason. He'd believe anything Vera told him, and she hates me. He knows she hates me, and still he'd believe what she says, for he doesn't trust any man around young girls. If he didn't believe me so chaste and pure in mind, he wouldn't have let me come in the first place. I'll speak to Vera when she comes for her next lesson. He stopped pacing and stood before me. She's wasting her time with me and your father's money. She has no musical ability at all, yet she insists on trying. She's competing with you, Audrina. She wants everything you want. She wants your young man. She wants the love your father gives you and not her. She's jealous of you, and dangerous, too. Beware of Vera.